welcome to our Partnership Publishing podcast. Today, we are joined with our latest debut author under Magic Mouse Books, John Wright of Quest of the Hawk. Welcome, John. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and thank you for having me today.
You are more than welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to finally have this conversation. The Quest of the Hawk is your debut book, and it's been out for a little while now. How does it feel to see your book in print and to finally be published?
Oh, so actually thrilled to bits. I started my writing career at, well, I won't say career, but my first publication was in a magazine for serving members of the Metropolitan Police. And I wrote a story about a pike,
Oh,
um,
wow.
which was entered into a competition back in the 60s. And I actually won the competition and won £5.
Hey, well, that's brilliant. So you got a taste of the writing book, I guess, from there.
Well, I've always enjoyed writing ever
Mhm.
since I was at school, and it just gives me a great thrill, really.
Yeah, yeah. And you can definitely see that. I know when we first received your submission of the Quest of the Hawk, it was something totally beautiful and unique. Your writing, your author tone and voice is just beautiful. It is different, and it's wonderful for children, for those that can see. I'll just give you a little bit of a theme. It's also been beautifully illustrated by Happydesigner. Sarah Lee Wills, again, for those that can see, this book features internal black and white illustrations that are either setting the scene for the beautiful chapter that you're about to read or a character depicted. How was the writing journey? One, where did the inspiration come from? How long have you been writing this story?
Well, the inspiration came from my interest in the environment, especially the natural environment. As I've told you before, I trained as a school teacher to teach physical education and general subjects. My first job was with primary school children who were easy to teach, very receptive, very polite. And I enjoyed that for 2 years before I went to a special school for what were termed in those days maladjusted boys. Um, and it was in total contrast. And the ethos of the school at that time was to teach from the environment. Now, as I was born in Manchester, I moved to London with my parents in the late 40s. And I then studied at Birmingham University for 3 years, doing my teacher training. And when I went to the school, the headmaster said to me, "Mr. Wright, your classroom is out there. And you will go out, you will make discoveries out there, and you will come back to your room with the boys
Wow.
and investigate those discoveries." And this led me on a journey into environmental studies.
Mhm.
I took a further course in a diploma in environmental studies, which led to me then with the boys making nature trails,
Mhm.
building bird boxes, planting
Wow.
trees, and entering an awful lot of competitions at local, regional, and national levels, many of which we won or were
Mhm.
placed. The culmination was a competition organised by the RSPB and ESSO,
Mhm.
an environmental competition in which we were runners up, and we were presented with an award by Professor David Bellamy.
Wow.
Um, that led me on to a further course in a postgraduate diploma in countryside management, and then on to a master's degree in countryside management, where the whole natural world opened up to me. And that's where I got my inspiration for the book.
Massively. It's an inspiration, even just hearing about your journey up to this point, let alone the book and the inspiration that the book is. Thank you for sharing with us. And so when you were able to see your illustrations, well, your story then come to life through illustration, how did you find that journey? Because this is obviously it's new to you. You've never had a book published before. How was that?
So yes, it was written in rhyme, which took a good deal of time to get everything right. But my main concern was to get across a range of messages to parents and to children. Bear in mind that the boys that I used to teach had little or no moral conscience or social conscience. And I wanted to teach the values of kindness, consideration, devotion, determination, and also a love of nature. And the plants and animals that I've used in the story were all, shall we say, woven into the story and into the spell that the magician cast, and ultimately the spell that was broken by the Weaver of Dreams. As I say, I've presented the book to a group of children in primary school, which they loved. But the reason I thought it may be worthy of publication was because when I had completed the first draft of the manuscript, I decided I'd read it to the boys that I was teaching at that time. And I approached this with a good deal of trepidation, knowing the kind of pupils that they were. So I started to read it to the 8 to 12-year-olds, and much to my amazement, they listened to it in complete silence and asked some very pertinent questions afterwards. This astounded me, to be quite honest, because it was very hard to keep their attention. So then I decided, with even more trepidation, to read it to the older boys, the teenagers, and their reaction was exactly the same. So I thought, well, if it works with them, it must be able to work with other children.
Absolutely, and it really does. And you've had experience since being published. You've had experience, obviously, going into schools and seeing your book, be enjoyed by many more children, which is just the aim and the purpose of the book, and also to deliver those messages, those core messages, like you're saying, about the nature, the environment, and what better way to do it. I'm just going to read a little bit of the blurb here for the listeners and viewers. So the Princess Hawk travels far and wide, searching for a cure to reverse her spell. On his quest, the hawk meets the creatures of the world and forages for flowers and plants by order of the magician's rhyme. Will the hawk find what he needs in time to remove the burden of the curse, or will the princess be bound for life to the cruel magician? And what's quite nice about this story is that, the magician, the princess, the hawk, like you said, the plants, the flowers, words, terminology like foraging, the world, it's all in there, and it captivates you right from the get-go. And it was an inspiration to read, and it was a rare submission to have. When we received it, worthy of publishing, definitely, let alone because of the rhyme. It's so rare to get rhyme right, but my goodness, this book, for those that are listening and watching, please do even consider purchasing this book to just experience the rhyming of the tales, because it's a big book. It's not just a picture book that's 28, 30 pages of rhyme. It is, it's roughly 70 pages, I believe. Yeah. What's quite nice as well at the back of the book that I wanted to share for people is there is a glossary. So we get to know a little bit more in-depth detail about certain characters or different phrases, terminologies. So, for example, here, Jacob's ladder. So you've mentioned it within the story. Jacob's ladder then has that glossary term explaining what that is, which is incredibly helpful, especially for the audience that it's been written for. Just going back to the illustrations and that being brought to life, is that something that was quite dear to you, to have that interactivity? It's not just a book that's then really quite off-putting for children to read, they don't need to be really avid readers, like a thick Harry Potter book, that's just black and white pages full of text. It's broken up beautifully with illustration in this book. How did you find that?
I think the illustrations complement the text extremely well. Happydesigner were completely helpful. They couldn't do enough for me. If I mentioned one or two amendments or changes, they were quite happy to comply with that. And it really, as I say, the illustrations complement the book extremely well, and I couldn't have wished for anything better.
It really is just absolutely stunning. The book retails at £5.99, which is a brilliant price point. Illustrated by Sarah Lee Wills, written brilliantly and cleverly by yourself. You are available for speaking engagements, book signings, author visits. You've got a wealth of experience of working with children over the years. Delivering the message and the story, is that something that you can now, you're extremely passionate about?
Absolutely, yes. I am passionate about issues of conservation. I'm passionate about protecting the natural world. And I believe that we've got to get this message across to children. And if it wasn't for my first headmaster at the school that I taught at with the disturbed boys, I don't think that this world of natural history and the environment would have opened up to me at all. And I am passionate about getting the message across that we should protect our wonderful environment and the species and ecosystems that are within it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that we can learn so much from it. I know that completely aligned with our values and visions as a publishing company. We are mindfully ecological and sustainable in our approach. That the book is ethically printed with vegetable inks. I know that was quite a huge thing, back when we were discussing this to work with you. Everything is sustainably sourced, UK printed, and sustainably sourced where available. It's dear to us. Our managing director lived in an eco community for years, and so we know that we can learn so much from nature, the environment, the earth, the universe around us. And I think having that like mind and that common goal and that cause just felt such a fit for us to be able to represent your book the best that we can. And we're just excited for those of you that are listening or viewing and watching this conversation. Please do, if you want to contact John or reach out and connect, whether you might have questions about the Quest of the Hawk. There are some samples and a read inside online. If you need to connect with him or would like to, you can always contact ourselves as publishers first, and we can pass the message on to John. Alternatively, he's available to connect via social media, so find him on Facebook. As he's shared a lot of experience, very much available for school visits, author visits, book signings, speaking engagements, you name it, and just in general to really talk about how we can all learn so much from nature and the environment and how it needs to be protected. Yeah, thank you ever so much for joining us today, John. Is there anything else that you'd like to part with? Or if anyone's considering writing a book, do you have any kind of maybe advice from a debut author of encouragement, maybe?
Um, if you're thinking of writing a book, give it a try. Don't give up.
Mm.
Use the determination of the hawk
Yes,
and
love
see it
that.
through to the end. And if I can finish with the last couple of lines of the book,
Mm.
nothing's impossible, it seems, especially if you have love in your heart and a friend called the Weaver of Dreams.
Ugh, goosey. Yeah, thank you ever so much, John. An absolute pleasure. We'll leave you with those lines, and we hope you've really enjoyed today's podcast. And we will see you all again soon. Thank you. Take care, and bye for now.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Mhm.